Morning, Ronnie.
Good morning, Rabbi. How are you? How are you feeling?
Thank God. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank God. What could be better? Getting up in the morning, having a Zoom with my rabbi on Gemara. I mean, like, look at the world we live in. Like the gratitude, right? This is
That's
amazing.
good. Ronnie, that's beautiful. You're hearing the holy words of the Gemara called the words of God.
No, if you stop for a moment and say, okay, you know, look at the world we live in. We have a teacher on Zoom giving us Gemara. Like, if you think back, like 300 years ago, we couldn't have things like this. I'm sitting in my living room having coffee and listening to Gemara. It's amazing.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Keep up your good work, Ronnie.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, we are on 32b3, where it starts Siman, about 4 or 5 lines from the top. The Gemara gives a mnemonic for the different discussions that we're going to have coming up. And the mnemonic is Sonei, which we're going to see has to do with Sinat Chinam. What? Mnemonic, sorry. Chala, Truma, Nigzelet, Dina, Shavua, Shiputcha, Giluya, Vanavluta. So those are the things that we're going to be discussing. Those are, and now the Gemara is telling us a little heads up about what's coming up. Stay tuned. Okay, so the Gemara says the following: Tanya, and Nehemiah Omer, Ba'avon Sinat Chinam, because of the sin of Sinat Chinam, hating a fellow Jew for no reason, no reason that's warranted to hate the fellow Jew. It seems that if a person does certain averot intentionally, there's no prohibition of hating him, because Rashi says you didn't see the person do a dvar avera, which would be mutar to hate him. A person who intentionally violates the Torah, that's what it would seem like. To see exactly what averot that might be, but is it which averot would be the averot that would be enough to say it could be sone him for that. But he says the avon of sinat chinam, of hating the fellow Jew for no reason, not warranted reason, meriva rava b'toch beito shel adam. There's an increase of fights among the person in his own personal life. When he hates someone else, not with proper reason, so Hashem goes ahead and makes it that in his own life, in his own personal life, there will be extra. Maybe Hashem will give extra things to have, extra challenges to the people that will help bring about that the person will actually have his own shalom bayit problems. So that's an amazing concept to think about, that people who have sinat chinam are setting themselves up for their own problems within their own house, whether it's their marriage, whether it's even if they're not married, right? Even if they're not married, you know, they'll have issues within their own house, within their own family. So it's like a very interesting. Sometimes, what happened that this person had this shalom bayit problem? What happened that morning? I said, morning, Simon. What happened? It could be where did the problem go wrong? So maybe this is like an insurance policy. If you want to help prevent having a shalom bayit problem, right? You want to help prevent that you should have your own family issues. Make sure that you're a person that's very treats others outside your family in a certain way. Okay.
because for some reason. Now we're talking about Sinat Hinam. In Chassidut, there is no Sinat Hinam. You have to love because you have to think that everything that happens to you is Emunah, and he was the Shaliach that did that. Now, applying this, what, like, I'm not finishing the question because I want the rabbi to, like, form the question for me, but I'm bringing these two concepts because it's kind of contradict. In the halakha, we see that the Rabbanim bring that there is a so there is the concept of hating. The hate is a thing. The hate is a thing. Like
Hating someone who
it's not that you are allowed to hate somebody, but because we are human, we're gonna hate somebody because some reason. Now there is enough hinam that you hate somebody because you don't like his face. That is not the reason. Somebody did something to you. Now in Hasidut, there is not even that the reason that you can hate him because he decided to be the shaliach to do something. You have to have a munah that happened to you because of Hashem wanted you to happen, and you have to have munah. So now, what direction should I take? Like, what is the?
right.
I don't know what's the question here.
Right. The only thing I will say, what I would say for now is that we're talking. If a person does, the only thing we find here that if a person does avera, and I will add, means they do it intentionally. That's how I would say. Then there's an allowance. This mutar Rashi that allowed us hate him. If it's not because of that, we don't see an allowance to hate. Now, whatever the Chassidut says, good morning, Asaf, that the Chassidut says that maybe you shouldn't even hate him, that might be called not halacha, that might be Chassidut. It's above the Chassidut means going beyond the letter of the law. But you have to look at the Sefer Chinuch on the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should look at the Sefer Chinuch or the Sifna es achicha and see what he says, because it could be that it might not only be mutalis noto, might not even only be permitted to hate that person of the sin. It might be appropriate to hate the sin. You know what I'm saying? So we have to. It has to be.
Always hate the sin. You're just not supposed to hate the sinner.
Yeah, but here the Chinuch said here the Rashi says mutar l'snoto. Right, Rashi says he did not see him doing a dvar veira that would be mutar, that would allow you to hate him. Now, what does it mean? Hate it.
But you did see it.
No, if you didn't see a sin,
You didn't see the sin.
right? But I'm saying, but the question is, but it sounds like from the Rashi that if he would have done, it's called sinat chinam because you did not see that he did the avera that would make it permitted to hate him, and therefore that's called sinat chinam. And you hate him, but you did not have the allowance to hate him. So what does it sound like from Rashi? That there is, if a person who intentionally steps on the Torah, you saw him do a sin, and he intentionally did the sin, that you have a right. Would be mutar to hate him.
Or a sin that he's doing לגבי המקום, כלפי המקום, לא כלפי בני אדם.
Hey, let's take a look at the chinuch a little bit. The chinuch says, he says like this. This is a chinuch, the mitzvah chinuch, right? Right, Nathan, for mitzvah 238. He says, if someone was kovea sinner in his heart, he set hatred in his heart to one of the Jewish people that are kosher, he violates this prohibition of lo sisna esachicha. But sinat harishaim, hating the wicked, meaning hating wicked Jews that are wicked, ain't b'issa. There's no mitzvah, but he says, look what he says, Avram, ela mitzvah. There's no time. The chinuch goes, or his opinion is, you're allowed to go ahead and hate them when? Here, Fred, Ezra, Fred, how do you like? Ezra. He says that it's a very interesting thing, maybe it might not be politically correct, right? but this is what the chinuch says. We're interested not in being politically correct. We want to be correct.
This is
7 years ago, right?
now.
With the chas v'shalom, don't say that. You're not wicked. No, don't say that. Ela mitzvah, mitzvah lisnotam, after you rebuke them on their sin many times, and they did not want to change. So the chinuch says the only way, sounds like you have a right. You have a right to, you have a mitzvah to hate the Jew. Is the sinner, is after you rebuke them many times for their sins. And then they still acting intentionally. So and they don't want to change.
How you gonna rebuke somebody today if you cannot rebuke nobody because you also do stuff like I'm saying, like in their levels of Rishonim, obviously you can rebuke. It's a level that we don't understand nowadays. How could you rebuke somebody if you're doing other things wrong? Maybe that thing you're not doing wrong, but so it's like it's a
The question is,
now.
And you have the ability, right?
We are not on the level of like hating nobody.
Okay, so we have to see more about this language of the chinuch, but again, when he says the mitzvah is only after you rebuke them many times, would he also mean, and the allowance to hate him, would that also require to have rebuked him many times or not? It's not clear. Okay, we'll go a little further.
You must rebuke him many times. Then we can debate it.
Yeah, but his language is hating the Rishon, there's no Isser. Rather, there's a mitzvah to hate them. After, some say you're learning the mitzvah, it also means not only the mitzvah, the allowance, that is also only after that. That's one way to read. It's not so clear how to read the chinuch, but to you it's very clear. Okay, Rashi didn't say this language. Rashi said, if you saw them doing Aveirah, Rashi says. Rashi didn't give more detail. That would, and obviously if you saw them doing Aveirah, that would allow you to hate it. But I think we have to focus on loving Jews. You know what I'm saying? I think that what the problem is not, the Beis HaMikdash was not destroyed because we did not hate the Jews that we were supposed to hate. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because we didn't love the Jews we were supposed to love. You like that? And I think you like that, Nathan? That's what we need to, I think, put more of our focus. And again, right, morning, Morris. And again, most of the Jews today that do sin, they don't know better. They never were taught properly. You never rebuked them. You never rebuked them. You never had a conversation with them. They don't know. You have to just feel bad for them. It's like the attitude towards the people the Jews that are doing sin. You have to feel bad for them and see what you could do to help them, to bring them back. Good morning, Morris. Okay, we are now on 32b3. Again, the Tanya, third paragraph from the top. So again, we came up, by the way, with a new idea. If you want to prevent Shalom Bayit problems, if you want to create that people should not have problems, family problems, husband and wife, teach them how to treat others, not to hate others, and therefore, if they will not hate others, that's going to help ensure they won't have problems in their own house. Because that's what the Gemara says. Tanya, the sin of hating, baseless hatred, causes meriva b'toch beito shel adam, increases fights in their own house. That's the punishment. Similarly, ishto mapelet nefalim, chas v'shalom, the wife would miscarry. That as a punishment for that, and banav u'bnotav shel adam meitim kishem ketanim. So there's also one of those things that the children could be punished under bara bat mitzvah for the sins of the father. If the father has the sin of sinat chinam, that he doesn't love the people that he's supposed to love, and if you remove your love, someone removes their love from their fellow Jew, so the measure for measure that Hashem could punish the person, that his love would also be removed. Because the children of a person are their love, and therefore their love could be removed from them because he removed his love from other people. So therefore, so it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. The Gemara is saying it's very dangerous for people, right, Simon? Very dangerous for people to go ahead and what? Hate another Jew, sinat chinam, because it could have great, terrible consequences on one's children that are under bar mitzvah, under 12 or 13, depending boy or girl. Belezer Yehuda Omer, Belezer says, "Ba'avon chala." By not taking off challah, you have a certain amount of dough you make, and you don't take off challah, you don't separate challah. Now, in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, they would give it to the Kohen. Today, we don't. We have tamei, so we take off a certain amount of challah, we burn it. So, ba'avon challah, in the sin of challah, ein bracha b'mechunas. As a result of that, if you have a storage house where you keep your wine, your oil, there's no blessing in your storage house where you keep your food. Maybe there's no blessing. Maybe it means things will rot, things will, and as a result of that, me'era mishtalechet b'sha'arim. Since there's no blessing in the food you keep in the storage house, so let's say it's going to rot, so you're not going to have there'll be a limited supply of produce. And what's the rule when there's a limited supply? Everything becomes very high. The prices become very high. And me'era mishtalachas b'sha'arim, there is a big problem with the prices of the wine and the oil, because since there's a limited supply, it becomes very expensive. And also the punishment is zorim zra'im, that the people will plant different types of plantings, v'achir mochlin, and other people will come ahead and eat their stuff. They themselves won't benefit from the food that they're actually planting. You did not go ahead. You were supposed to go ahead and take off challah. You were supposed to give to the Kohen, and you didn't give to the Kohen. You could say, so you personally are not going to get it. Someone else, someone else will get it. So that's one of the commentaries say over here. Since you did not take off challah, so Hashem makes it that you won't have proper dough to go ahead and take off challah. Shenema af ani eseh zot lechem. This is part of the Tochacha and Parshas Bechukotai. V'ifkati alechem behola, shashechefesh, dachas, all different types of punishments. Mechalot enayim, deal with nefesh. Uzratem l'rik zarachem. You're going to go ahead and you're going to plant, and it's going to be for naught. So similar, the seemingly the pasuk is saying that you're going to go ahead and you're going to plant, but you're not going to eat it. Your enemies will eat it. That will be part of the punishment for not taking off challah. Now, where do we see anything about challah? Because hey and chet are some of the letters that are interchangeable. Like aleph and ayin are interchangeable letters in the alphabet. So the hey and the chet are interchangeable. They look very similar also, by the way. And so al-tiki b'chala, don't call it b'chala, ela b'chala. The pasuk says, I'll give this back, b'chala on you. It's confusion. But instead of b'chala, it's as if it says chala. It's alluding to the idea of the sin of not separating challah. I took away from. That's why I'm taking away from you. You didn't separate to give to the Kohen. You're going to lose out. Your own bread is going to be taken from other people. Are going to be taking your stuff. The Gemara says, if you go ahead and you give the challah to the Kohen, you know what happens? Mitzbarchim. It's a great blessing by taking off the challah. Shenema reishit arisotechem tetnu laKohen. You give from your dough to the Kohen, best of your dough, and lania bracha el beitecha. You will bring blessing into your house. That's going to bring blessing, the blessing in Yecheskel. So if people, therefore, there's a lot of these challah bakes, right? You heard of challah bakes? If the challah baking became popular. So here we see, and they know it's a big skula. So here we see, because it says that it's going to bring blessing into one's house when they go ahead, right, Morris? When they take off challah. Now, ba'avon bittul trumot u'maisrot. Now, a lot of times people who buy challah from the bakery, you're not taking off challah. They already separated the challah. If you make dough in your own house, you make a certain amount, then you would have the mitzvah separate the dough. Ma'avod bittul trumot u'masrot. Now, if a person, as a result of the sin of not giving trumah to the kohen or ma'aser to the Levi, or other ma'aserot that you have to take ma'aser sheni to Yerushalayim, shamayim netzarim milhorit talamata. The heavens hold back from bringing dew and rain. And if there's no dew and rain, then what happens, Simon? There's no crops. No crops, nothing grows. So you kept crops for yourself. You're supposed to give, so you lose. You lose on the deal. You're going to lose. Hashem says you kept it for yourself. I'm going to take it away. I'm going to take it away from you.
You withheld from others.
Withhold from you. Yeah, and Hashem withhold. Very good. You withhold from others. I'll withhold the rain. So Hashem will withhold the rain and the dew. And Yokeh Ha'ave, as a result of that, everything becomes very expensive. Prices become inflation, it's all through the roof, because there's very limited supply. V'hasacha avad. So people who used to make money by selling grain, now they have very limited supply. There's not too many. They can't sell too much. So they're not making money. They can't get their hands. They can't get their hands on grain. So the whole market is they don't have the market doesn't have supplies to wheel and deal and make money as a result of that. And others learn it's not just the merchants are unable to make money. Others learn that the workers, you have workers in a field, and you pay workers money to work the field. But if there's nothing to work, everything is just ruined. There's nothing growing. So what's there for me to work? All the workers in the fields are not gonna in the factory. There's nothing for them to do in the fields because there's no grain to work. So therefore, people are losing both on the retail end, both in the manufacturing end. There's no work. There's no work for the workers. And everyone's running to try to make a dollar, make a living, right? But they don't have where to make the money from, because if there's no food, very little food supply, and there's no work for them to, so therefore, and the Rashbeit says, since if a person did not do the mitzvah of separating truma and maaser, so the punishment Hashem says is that you're not going to have food to separate from, right? You had food. You were supposed to separate. Good morning, Boker Tov, good to see you. Person was blessed with food, and when you're blessed with food, you have a mitzvah. Let's say you grew the food in your field to separate truma and maaser. But if you did not take off, but you intentionally were not interested in taking off, so Hashem says, I'm not going to give you opportunity to take off. You're not going to have what to take off from. That is the punishment. Now, and the Gemara says, Shenema, Pasasiya Gamchom Yiguslu V'mei Sheleg, She'ochato. What does that pasuk talk about? Eov, Eov is talking about complaining about how the wicked people sometimes the wicked people don't have, Gary, they don't have punishment in this world, right? You see, it seems like that they're looking that things are going good for the wicked people, and sometimes they die easy death sometimes, and sometimes they don't die as a result of great sickness and pain, and but obviously they're gonna in the next world they're going to be punished. So but the Gemara is learning over here. What is the reason? What is it alluding to? My mashma. Because siyah, they want to translate. I commanded you certain mitzvot. I commanded you certain things b'yimot hachama during the summertime. The summertime, right? You already brought in the grain already, right? Because Sukkot, you have Shavuot. It's called the Zman HaKatzir, right? Shavuot, you already harvested. You brought, and then Sukkot is a Chag HaAsif. The food is already brought in. You were supposed to go ahead and separate the Truma Maaseh, right? You have a responsibility to go ahead and separate, to give to the Levi, to the Kohen. V'lo asitem, you did not follow it. So siyah gam home, when the commandments that have to do with the summertime, but you have to take off your Truma Maaseh, and if you didn't do it, yigzelu mimei shelek, you're gonna as a result of that, so that when the winter comes, you're not going to have, morning, Steve, when the winter comes, you're not going to have the rain. The rain that's supposed to help get the crops grow, you did not give your Truma Maaseh, so Hashem is going to punish the people that they're not going to have what to give the Truma Maaseh from. And the imnot nim, but again, the Gemara says, the same way the Gemara says, when you give challah to the Kohen, there is, okay, in the times that we would give the challah to the Kohen, or when you separate challah even today, we could say there's blessing. So when you give the truma and the maaseh to the Kohen and the Levi, whatever you need to, when you take off your tithes, you're gonna get a very tremendous bracha. And remember, from the punishment, you could realize the reward, because the reward is always greater, much greater than the punishment. So if there's such a serious punishment for not taking off the Truma and the Maaser, right, Steve? So the reward for taking off Truma and Maaser is through the roof. Then what is the Gemara? So listen to this. Shinema, it says in Malachi, Haviu et kol Maaser al Beit Hashem. They brought, you could bring the Maaser to the storage house. The Teref Beiti. The pasuk is saying that when you would bring the truma and the maaseh when you give the truma to the Kohen, and you give the maaseh to the Levi, there'll be food in the house of Hashem, and there'll also be food for the Leviim, right? Have you bring the food to and the maaseh to the Kohanim, and Hashem says, I want you to test me. This is one of the places where Hashem says, test me. You're going to see the great blessing you're going to have. Generally, you don't test God. But God says, when you do this, when you give the truma and the maaseh, you're going to see, Imlo eftach lachem et arubot hashamayim. I'm going to open up the windows of the heaven. Varikoti lachem bracha. I'm going to give you such blessing, ad belidai. What does it mean, ad belidai? That means Amar Rami Barav Amarav, that Ashe Yivlu Sivtotechem Elomadai, your lips are going to be tired from saying, I have enough, I don't need any more, I can't handle any more of this stuff. It's too much. What am I going to do with all this crops? I can't. It's this overabundance of crops. I don't need so much. That is. Now that's going to take a lot for a person to say I have enough. I have so much. I don't even know what to do with it. That is the yivlu. That's the level of the bracha that a person is going to go ahead and receive for being on top of his game by giving properly the trumot and the masrot. That's the tremendous bracha. Now we know also. When you give, in general, when you give tzedakah, right? The Gemara says when you give tzedakah, you get 11, and you talk nicely to the poor person, and you say a good word to the person. You get, like, I think the Gemara says 11 brachot, 11 blessings, a lot of blessings when you give tzedakah. So so that's something that we need to, here in America, we're We're not involved in our Trumot and Maasrot. It's more than Israel that they're involved in that. But we have the opportunity through tzedakah to get great blessings. Bavon Gezel. Now the Gemara talks about stealing, the sin of stealing, the great ramifications of stealing. Now again, we're going to say, I want to say my point. And if a person doesn't steal, a person's honest, it's great reward you're going to get for being honest. Sometimes it costs you money to be honest, right? Sometimes it's costly to be honest. But the blessings that you're going to get for being honest is tremendous. Because look at the punishment for thievery. Hagovai ole. The govai, the certain type of kosher locust comes. A locust problem comes as a result of people that steal. You took away food from people that belongs to them. So Hashem says, I'm going to take away your food. I'll take away your crop. You're not going to have crop that you stole. Ubnei Adam ochlin, therefore the ra'av have it. There's no food because the locust ate up all the food. So what's the domino effect if there's no food? There's a hunger. And there's a hunger, it says that the people will reach such levels, which sounds very difficult to understand, that there will be people, bnei adam ochlim b'sab b'neihem b'notehem. People will eat the flesh of their own children, which sounds, it's in the Torah, right? But it sounds, how do people ever reach that level? That people ever do that? But that they'll reach such a level. Maybe that's also part of the punishment, that they'll to quiet their hunger. They'll actually go that low to do such a thing. Shinema, as the pasuk says, Shimu hadavar hazeh, parot habashon asher b'hashomron, ha'ushkot dalim harotzot evyonim. What is that pasuk talking about? The Navi is saying, it's talking about the parot habashan, the fatty parot from the country of Bashan. What about that? Morning Joe. These are the women of the noble people in Shomron. Let's say the women of the Jewish higher ups, Jewish leaders that are, political people, that these women, that because they are used to living a very high standard of living, and they like to feed themselves very well, they like to indulge in the luxury in pleasures a lot, so they're compared to these fatty cows. But they are stealing from the poor. How are they stealing from the poor? It's a fascinating concept, because these women are want to live a certain standard of living that's extremely high, and that pushes the hand of the husband to make a larger living. And when the husband can't make the living in a normal fashion, because every person is decreed on Rosh Hashanah how much money you're going to make, right? There's a certain amount of money we're decreed we're going to make. But if someone's wife wants so much more than what's necessary, and it's not decreed that the man is supposed to make that money, so how is that money going to happen? So that money might happen by taking someone else's money. That's how he's going to. He wants to feed his wife's standard, and he comes to steal as a result of that. So that's what the pasuk is saying. And then the Amar Rava says, you know what? Kigon hani nashit mefuzah. What the pasuk is talking about, the verse is talking about, is related to our women of today. We're in this town of Mechuzah. He says there's women over there that are overdoing it, overindulging, wanting too high a standard of living. And therefore that's pushing the husband too much.
But it says in Masechet Ketubot that
Okay, right, but not all women are, meaning when you have to know, when you marry a rich girl, you have to know you have to keep her standard, what she's used to. That's it, because that's what she's expecting. She grew up with a maid in the house. I think you have to provide that maid for her, or whatever those normal things that a rich girl has. But the Chafetz Chaim warns about this, by the way, also. He warns about that the women, the women are great, but he warns about the women that are looking for the luxuries, and they're looking for too much, and they're pushing the husbands to create a certain standard of living, which is too much. And therefore, we have to be very careful. And the men that give in to them, now, therefore, the man is challenging himself. Either number one, he's not going to have enough time. He might come to be not honest to try to figure out how to create that standard, or he's not going to have the time to spend too much time learning because he has to go ahead and busy figuring out how to meet that. And he might not be able to give Maaseh. He's not going to have money to give Maaseh because he says he has to continue. So therefore, people have to be careful about overspending and overindulging and creating a lifestyle and giving in to things. And especially in our days when women are exposed to seeing everything on Instagram and all these things, and you see what people have, they get ideas sometimes. And therefore, we have to be careful. Have a great day, everybody. We welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. We're here Monday through Friday, every day. Thank you. What did you say? Is that fascinating? Gemara, is it? Great. Thank you. Thank you. You too. Rani, Asaf, have a great day.